Hello, welcome back to the Edge of the Box podcast, a podcast by WhoScored.com. I'm your host, Dan Bardell, joined by Ben from WhoScored, and Jonathan Wilson is with us as always as well, albeit with a different background. It's the last weekend of the Premier League season, but before we get into that, let's talk about the England squad, Jonathan. That was announced yesterday. Lewis Duncan, which was nice. I think he deserves it. He's had a really good season. Recall for Tyrone Mings. Eze, however you say his name nowadays. He asked for it to be changed. He needs Eze now. I think he gets his first call up, although he was due to be called up before, but got injured just before the Euros. I think it's quite a nice looking squad.
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, the biggest thing about this is the realization that there's still 2 England games to come after the Champions League final. This season has gone on forever. Still, they're not letting us go. I mean, realistically, against Malta and North Macedonia, England should win both pretty comfortably. But this feels like the right kind of squad. A couple of new players in, just sort of, and Eze's form recently has been excellent, and he's obviously been on the radar for a while. I think Lewis Dunk again has been knocking on the door for a while, and Brighton's form this season. If he's not going to get in now, he's never going to get in. So I think he deserves that. Ming similarly, there had been that drop off, but the last sort of 4 or 5, since the World Cup, he's been excellent. So that makes complete sense. Yeah, people will moan about Maguire and Calvin Phillips being there, but we know that Southgate likes Maguire. Maguire has been pretty consistently good in an England shirt. You suspect that Southgate's loyalty to him is partly based on what he's like around the camp, which I think is an important aspect, particularly at international level. Phillips is a really good player. He just can't get past Rodri. So again, I think that's fine. And then Sterling missing out perhaps raises eyebrows, but it's questions over his fitness. I know that all the talk was, he needs to rest. And again, that's fair enough if that's what he needs. But you also suspect that had this been a year, 18 months ago, would have been, oh no, Raheem Sterling's out. And, at the Euros, he was England's best attacking player. Well, that's not the case anymore. And, he's not in the first 11. And, I don't think anybody would be too disappointed that he's not in the squad. So that suggests his declining importance over the last year, 18 months.
Yeah, I mean, my biggest issue with the squad is that Eze was listed in the midfielders instead of the forwards, so you've got all these kind of like defensive midfielders, and then Eze was at the end of the list. Surely he's classed as a forward down there. Exactly, everyone knows exactly what I'm talking about because I'm pointing.
I don't know why they do it like that. Just put them in alphabetical order.
Yeah, it's strange, isn't it? Because forwards, like Grealish is down as a forward, for example. Is he really a forward? I don't know. But it's the way it's done. Anyway.
And fullbacks are so different to centre backs, so to group them together seems a bit weird. Like, where does John Stones go these days? It plays halfway between there. Do you have to have a special John Stones category between defence and midfield?
Well, he is special. We know he's the best defender in Europe. Podcast.
Yeah, I just list him. I just list in alphabetical order. I think. Yeah,
it's a good squad.
Like that just creates complication. It's fine, and if it doesn't beat Malta and North Macedonia, then we got problems.
Yeah, that's true. Southgate did reference actually that we haven't beat North Macedonia the last 2 times that we've played them in his press conference yesterday. I sat there and watched his press conference because I'm very, very sad. Ben, the forwards then, or strikers, it looks like it was a straight shootout between Callum Wilson and Ollie Watkins. Ollie Watkins was on fire. Probably the goals have dried up just at the wrong time, and then Callum Wilson literally cannot stop scoring at the moment. So in a straight shootout between those two, Callum Wilson won that battle.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really argue with that. Wilson's been in sensational form, and he seems to kind of not necessarily the better fit to support Kane, but kind of a different option for Kane, whereas Kane and Watkins perhaps like to sort of drift across the front, the final third. Wilson will kind of stay more central and put the ball in the back of the net. So, he's got the 2 different strikers up there, but you can't really blame Southgate for going for Wilson, who's in the better form than Watkins at the moment.
And of course, Callum Wilson will be playing Champions League football next season, presuming he stays at Newcastle, which I think he will. We're going to start this week by looking at the relegation battle, and Newcastle fit into this kind of topically because they played Leicester on Monday, Jonathan. Did Leicester mess up? I wonder, was it a missed opportunity? Because their game plan was okay. They stayed in the game 0-0 last 10 minutes, and suddenly in the last 10 minutes, Newcastle, you felt kind of sat back and thought, oh, what do we do here? Because we only need a point to qualify for the Champions League. Shall we stop attacking? And that opened it up for Leicester a little bit. Had one chance to score, but it was all too late. But actually, that point may help them come the final day if results go their way.
Yeah, I mean, I think they had to take a point from there. Yeah, if they lost that, it then becomes really difficult. Newcastle had won 5 of the previous 6 at home. The only game they hadn't was the Arsenal game when they could easily have won that. It was a very tight, very good game. They battered some sides. Given Leicester's defensive issues, I think going to a more defensive formation, essentially sitting a block of 3 central defenders, a block of 3 central midfielders. It frustrated Newcastle probably as much as Leicester can frustrate Newcastle. So, I mean, look, there's the potential they looked after at the end of the season, but what you had to do from that game was to take a point, and they did that. And I think you can't let context affect too much your thinking on that. That it's at any other stage of the season, a point away at Newcastle for Leicester is a really good result. For a team fighting relegation to get a point at Newcastle at one of the top 4 is a good result. So I don't think you can be too critical. And it nearly worked perfectly. They nearly, if that Castagno effort had gone in, they'd have pinched 3 points, and you would have been praising the tactics. So I think. I think, to be honest, if anything, they were lucky to get the point. The fact Newcastle hit the woodwork 3 times, there's a couple cleared off the line, but they I always remember Rafa Benitez after actually when he was managing Newcastle. It was a game against Manchester City when they had a ridiculously low amount of possession. I think 16-17% possession, which certainly at the time was a Premier League record low, and I think they got away with a draw. And Benitez said afterwards, when you're playing a team better than you, you've got to make the game as short as possible, because the less time they have to score, the more chance you have of surviving. And that's sort of what Leicester did. They made the game as brief as they could, and then you had to go that last 10 minutes. And it might have worked better, but I think a point is fine. And they're now relying on Bournemouth getting something at Everton, but that was pretty much inevitable.
It's Everton v Bournemouth, Leeds v Spurs, and Leicester v West Ham, Ben. Do you envisage a scenario where all 3 of those teams win because they're at home? They actually do all have winnable games.
Yeah, and it wouldn't surprise me if they all came away with victory. I think Tottenham look completely out of sorts now. They look to have just down tools. So Leeds winning in front of a Vocal Ellen Road wouldn't be a shock. West Ham are probably more focused now on the Conference League. Probably want to win just to get some momentum ahead of the final with Fiorentina, but Moyes will probably rest players with one eye on that game, and now Bournemouth are safe. So all 3 winning, I mean, it's the final day of the season, anything can happen, and all 3 winning wouldn't be at all a huge shock. Yeah,
Leeds kind of messed up last week, didn't they, Jonathan? Got themselves in the game at West Ham, but really from nowhere, just capitulated. And the story of their time in the Premier League, really the whole time they've been back in the Premier League, is that they can't defend. They've had goals in their team at times, but they just cannot defend to save their lives. But that was a real missed opportunity at West Ham last week. You expected them to go there under Allardyce and be a little bit better, but it's almost, I felt like Big Sam was almost shrugging his shoulders and kind of saying, well, if I can't get this team going, then nobody will be able to.
It seems particularly to have been a trope of the last 6 weeks or so, that since that Palace game, when they were 1-0 up and flying, and then Palace nicked a goal just before half time and they collapsed. They collapsed against Liverpool, they collapsed against West Ham. Luke Ayling spoke afterwards of the fatigue they felt in the second half, a lack of fitness. And you wonder whether that might be a hangover from the Bielsa days, that all those miles are still in their legs. And it's a big problem for them because repeatedly this season, but particularly the last few weeks, they've started games really well. They've maybe taken the lead and then just fallen away second half. And if you're doing that at West Ham against a team really with nothing to play for in the league, a team that's focusing on another competition, that's a big worry. You sort of think against a team with nothing to play for, if you can get a lead, you've got a bit of momentum, you should be able to keep that going. And to fall away as they did, it wasn't that West Ham picked them off on the break. So West Ham were the better side second half by far. That is a big problem. Now, maybe at home, maybe with a home crowd against a Spurs side that of what I think the last 9 away games they've drawn 2 and lost 7 in all competitions. Yeah, maybe they can get the win, but you sort of feel that Leeds have had so many opportunities in the last couple of months that they haven't taken. You sort of think it's probably too late for them. That the fact they need the 2 other results to go their way. They're obviously the favourite of those 3 to go down.
Yeah, Everton in the best position, Ben. Their home form was really what kept them up last season. Their fans made it a hostile place to go. They got behind the team and made it an intimidating atmosphere, but basically really got behind them. And I think they dragged Everton over the line last season. In a one-off game at home to Bournemouth, given the fact they're in the best position as well, they feel best placed to stay up of the 3.
Yeah, without doubt. You mentioned the home form. Dyche came in. This was kind of what they'd fall back on would be turning Goodison Park into this hostile place for teams to go. And yeah, they've had some dodgy results there. But they have shown that they can remain competitive in games. The City game before Gundogan scored, they were really frustrating. The City attack, obviously they beat Arsenal at home. They got that draw with Tottenham as well. Definitely the best place to go. Definitely the best place team to stay up, especially against a Bournemouth side that has nothing to play for. They could just look forward to the summer now. So yeah, Everton obviously the understandable favourites to keep their head above water this time around again.
Yeah, and we've got a relegation threatened combined 11 this week. I presume fitness isn't a factor in this. This is just based off average ratings through the whole season, Ben.
Yep, so we've gone for 15 plus appearances. We've got Pickford in goal, Castagne, Tarkowski, Werber and Strauch in defence. Midfielders Maddison, Adams, Tielemans, and then up front is Iwobi, Rodrigo and McNeil.
Jonathan, would that team stay in the Premier League?
Probably. But yeah, then I sort of look at the squads of these 3 teams as they are anyway and think, all of them possibly should have stayed up. I think from the point of view of squads, I think Southampton and Bournemouth at the start of the season looked significantly the weakest. Now seem to be how Scott Parker saw things.
That is how Scott Parker saw things.
So, yeah, I mean, look, Leicester. I think there was two things happened there. So one was the owners had financial difficulties because of the pandemic. Their business being in duty-free shops and airports. But also, Brendan Rodgers was pushing for more sort of Premier League proven players rather than players they could train up, which has always been their way. And that I think hasn't particularly worked. They spent that 60 million for someone before last. Ryan Burton on a free, who's played 4 games, I think it is, or started 4 games, and also brought in Samare, Daka, and one other. Remind me who the other one is.
Vestergaard came in at what?
Vestergaard, yeah, thank you. Yeah. And none of them have really worked. And I think Daka and Samara, you've seen little flickers of what Leicester saw, but it hasn't been consistent enough. So it's clearly not as strong a squad now as it was 2 years ago, and losing Schmeichel, the ageing of Vardy, those have all negatively affected them. I think. Just the way the squad's gone, they're now tending to play with only one centre forward. I don't think that gets the best out of Vardy. I think he's better playing off somebody. So you think of him playing off Ajoa or playing off Okazaki. That was when he was at his best, and he doesn't. With Iheanacho, doesn't seem quite to work, or with Daka, doesn't seem quite to work. So they're not as strong as they were, but still, this is a team that's gone fifth, 8th. They should be better than this. I mean, Everton just do that thing of buying players when they have no value left in them. I don't think you can really say any of the players they've signed have been bad players. In Iwobi or Andros Townsend or Damari Gray, or they're all individually good players. It's just when you buy a clump of them, you're buying players with no resale value, and that puts you under economic pressure. And part of the reason they sign them is they need an immediate impact. So they think, right, we'll get somebody who we know he's a sort of mid-table or above Premier League player. But again, there's obvious holes in that squad, especially at centre forward when Calvert-Lewin's not fit. But that squad should be good enough to be higher than they are. I think they've made some pretty strange managerial decisions at times. Leeds, possibly, you'd say, that is a squad of a relegation threatened team. But again, you look at the squad building. going very much for that sort of American Red Bull model. And then having invested in that in January, you sack the Red Bull coach a week into February. Yeah. So that doesn't smack of joined up thinking either. And maybe there is a hangover from Bielsa days. We've seen that at other teams that I think Bielsa, not merely the physical demands he places on players, but the psychological and emotional demands, the sort of the way he lifts players up, that there is a crash when he goes or when his magic stops working. So I think Leeds' position is more understandable. But yeah, Leicester or Everton, I think both of them will think we shouldn't really be in this position. How have we got here?
Got a book on Bielsa up there. I wonder if we know anyone else that's got a book coming out. Jonathan, do you know anyone?
Yeah, I've actually. I'm glad you asked. I've got a book coming out on June the 8th. It's the update to the best-selling Inverting the Pyramid, the fourth edition. 15 years since it first came out. Fully updated now. It takes up to the World Cup. So if you go on my Twitter, you'll see the link to pre-order, or you can go to any normal bookshops, your Amazons, your Waterstones, your bookshop.org, or you can just send me a $5 in the post if you prefer.
Formerly of Ted Lasso as well, Jonathan's book. Not the last 2 episodes, though. It wasn't on yesterday's episode either. I've just realised Harvey Barnes is not in the combined 11. He's scored double figures for goals.
Though, he
hasn't scored double figures for goals.
Well.
I'd have thought his goal output might have got him in the team over Iwobi, for example.
No,
he's scored goals as well, hasn't he?
Barnes is double figures, I think, Jonathan. Double figures in the team at the bottom 3 is pretty poor. You touched on something interesting actually that I wanted to get into, Jonathan. I think Leeds and Leicester, in hindsight, it's the best tool that you can have in football. It's brilliant. They'd have just been better off sticking with the managers that they had, in my opinion. Like you said, Leeds invested so much in that Red Bull model, and I actually always thought they were in the games under Jesse Marsh. They might not win, but I always felt that they were playing for him, and they were playing well, and they were a little bit unlucky at times. And Leicester, they just left it so long to sack Brendan Rodgers. They were going to get rid of him earlier on in the season. They obviously didn't want to because of the compensation. But then they've done it when there's no time for any impact to be made off the back of it. And they lost 2 games with a caretaker manager that were probably winnable games as well. So I think those 2 teams would both look back and maybe stick with their managers.
Yeah, but it's just what people do, isn't it? That your form's poor. There's this sort of seemingly inevitable decline. Something must be done. Sacking the manager is something, therefore we must do it. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But I mean, Dean Smith's taken 6 points from 7 games, I think. So yeah, if he wins against West Ham, you say 9 points from 8 games. That's probably, well, I mean, over a season that would keep you up. It's not that dissimilar to Dyche. Actually, Dyche has taken 18 from 17. So potentially 21 from 18.
He's had a longer time, hasn't he, Dyche? That's the point.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm saying that ratio, just over a point a game, would keep you up. That would get you to 40 points. And then but Leeds under Allardyce, 1 point from 3. But I mean, one of them's against Manchester City, so it's and one of them's against Newcastle. So you can't really judge him on that on having taken a 0.33 of a point per game from 3 games, which include Newcastle and City. But yeah, I think Leeds will obviously regret the Gracia appointment. That didn't work out. Should they have gone for Sam early? I mean, I think that would have smacked of desperation. But I just don't understand. If you had doubts about Jesse Marsh, don't sign a load of Jesse Marsh players in January. It just doesn't add up. I mean, Everton did that with Benitez. They signed a couple of Benitez players and then sacked them the next week. And you sort of, it's the left hand needs to know what the right hand's doing. And I think you see in that exactly why these clubs are in that mess, because the club's not working as a coherent whole.
Everton sold Luca Dean to Villa because they fell out with Benitez. So they did that, and then Benitez, literally, like you say, got the sack the next week. The joined up thinking at some of these clubs is just, like you say, it's why they're down there, because they're not run well. Leeds, spent £35 million on a player who you've barely seen on the pitch, and at this moment in time doing a podcast, I just can't even remember his name. Ruta. Yeah. You can't be down the bottom and spending £35 million on a prospect and then not playing at all. 35 million and you're probably going to go down. You've already spent a load of money on a player that you didn't even end up keeping because you messed up with Augustinsson from was it Leipzig at the time. The money they've thrown down the drain is frightening.
And you see this quite often with teams. So in Sunderland did this as well. So they loaned Ji Dong-won to Augsburg, failed to register him properly when he returned, and they ended up getting fined, I think, £5 million, but they could have been docked points for that. Yeah, they played him when he wasn't registered. And that was entirely sort of a bureaucratic error within the club. They had that thing with Ricky Alvarez, the Argentinian who they got from Inter. And they got him on loan, and I think it was compulsory purchase of 10 million at the end of the season. And it was obvious he wasn't up to it, and his knee was all over the place. Sunderland tried to get out of it, and they've ended up having to pay extra because they'd signed a stupid deal for a player they obviously hadn't done due diligence on. So, I think running a club well is not as simple as the best clubs make it look, but equally, it's a lot easier than the bad clubs make it look. They're just basic competence, like stuff that if you were playing Football Manager, you'd be annoyed at yourself having done badly. They just do week to week.
Yeah, Victor Orta has ended up leaving Leeds. I can't believe he didn't go earlier. Some of the decisions that have been made there are absolutely baffling, but we're spending too long talking about the relegation picture. I need a name from you then. Who's gonna stay up? Ben?
Everton staying up.
Jonathan?
Everton.
Yeah, you can't argue with it. They're the best players, aren't they? Bournemouth at home.
Well, it's just Bournemouth have lost the last three, haven't they? They're on the beach, and they absolutely deserve to be on the beach. They everything they've done this season has led them to a point where there's no pressure on them. So you can't blame them now for playing like there's no pressure on them. And that
no Calvert-Lewin. No, Calvert-Lewin's the only thing there. They're much better when Calvert-Lewin's in the side, and he's not going to be there because yet again he's injured. Just can't catch a break, that guy. Let's look at the European picture now. The race for the top 7. Ben, your team. You probably don't even want them to finish 7th. But where do Tottenham go from here? Is Slot the right man to come in and manage them next season?
I mean, the main reason I want Arne Slot to come in is because I want Tottenham to win silverware and for the headlines to be Tottenham hit jackpot on slot machine.
Unfortunately, Ben, to interrupt you, we've just had some breaking news in our ear that Slot is staying at final, so you won't get to do your headline. You won't ever see that slot machine headline that you just contrived to make up. So Tottenham looks like they've been rejected by another manager. So what do they do now? I can see how bewildered you are by this.
I don't think even Tottenham know what to do now.
Is Nuno in work still, or where's Nuno at the moment?
Nuno's in Saudi Arabia.
Oh, so
he'd be
better off staying there.
Yeah. Things with Tottenham is there's no manager for the men's team, no manager for the women's team. There's no director of football, so there's no direction where the club are going. I mean, the board will want one manager. Someone else will say they want this manager. They've got Scott Munn coming in as the chief football officer, I think 1st of July, but you need someone to come in now. Someone should have come in as soon as Paratici was resigned. You have a contingency plan in place and you go and find the right manager. Obviously, there's talk that Tottenham could go back for Nagelsmann if the director of football says he's the right man for the job. And now it just seems that now that Slot's not happening, you have to go back for Nagelsmann. No idea what to do with Tottenham now. They're just a rudderless club drifting aimlessly towards, relegation, in my opinion. Not relegation, but you know what I mean.
They won't go down.
Out of the European places completely.
Ruud van Nistelrooy left his job yesterday, didn't he? He's had a good season.
Did he?
At PSV, I believe he left his job yesterday. I could have dreamt that, but I'm pretty sure that he left his job. I mean, if they went back in for Nagelsmann, Jonathan, and he came, that would feel very much like when Conte turned them down the first time, and then they end up getting him anyway. But then he's just never happy because he's not getting the assurances he wants. That would feel very similar to me. And this also feels very similar to when they got Nuno because they just kept messing around, kept getting rejected, couldn't get in who they wanted, couldn't find a manager, so they just drafted in Nuno. They don't seem to have learned their lesson at all from the last time they were looking for a manager.
Yeah, I mean, there's two things there, aren't there? So there's the ineptness of the pursuit, but also there's the way it's been played out in public. I'm sure a lot of managerial decisions come after a lot of phone calls to a lot of people and a lot of negotiations that end up going nowhere. That's the nature of these things. But it looks bad when fans get excited because, Pochettino's coming back. We're getting Nagelsmann. We're getting Arne Slot, who's done brilliant things for Feyenoord. and then you haven't got any of them, and it ends up being a less stellar name. And like Nuno, he's then starting with everybody already sort of in this sort of damp fog of sort of just not having that sense of purpose of the club moving forward. When you appoint a new manager, particularly when you do it in the summer, what you want is that to stimulate optimism. Now, that doesn't mean you have to necessarily appoint the flashiest, most charismatic bloke, but you need somebody who can sort of ignite the fire under the thing, especially when Tottenham have had 3 seasons like they've had. So I don't know where they do go next. I mean, would Nagelsmann even want it? I mean, and the thing is now, presumably, if Nagelsmann were to take it, he could make whatever demands he wants. A skateboard ramp at the training pitch or whatever. It's already a mess, and already whoever comes in is going to be under pressure.
I'm actually bewildered by it. I mean, it doesn't matter to me. I don't really care what Tottenham do. Ben looks.
Well, I care.
Ben looks like he's had enough. Ben just doesn't even want to do the podcast.
It's hard not to have had enough. Like, I was at the Tottenham Brentford game on Saturday. In the first 45 minutes, Tottenham were really good. They went ahead early on through Kane. They had chances to kind of go 3-0 up, and that David Raya save for that Son Heung-min chance. And you think, right, this is really positive. Tottenham playing 4-2-3-1. It's good attacking football. You've got 4 attacking players on the pitch, and we actually look like a cohesive unit. Second half, Brentford score early on, and Tottenham just collapse again. And it's just the same old Tottenham now. And it's just, again, no idea where the club's going, no idea what to expect in the next day, let alone the next season. It wouldn't surprise me if I thought Leeds would beat Tottenham on Sunday. I think they're going to absolutely pummel us now. I don't think Tottenham even care about the season. I don't think they care about getting to the Conference League. It's just frustrating. Like, fans can see what they want from the club, and the club can't see what they want from the club. So it's just, you're watching from the outside in, you think, you're pulling your hair out, wondering what are you doing, and it's so frustrating.
I mean, it's a poor take from me, so I don't care about Tottenham. That's not true. But basically, at the moment, as a Villa fan, I don't want Tottenham to do well, because I see Tottenham has been a team that Villa can usurp and become bigger than in the years to come, because they're just not run properly, they're not run well.
But I care because I'm a London-based football journalist, and I want to go to the Tottenham Stadium because it's a nice place to go and the food's good, and it's easier than getting a train to the northwest or the northeast or the Midlands. I mean, the transport is a bit annoying, but it's nowhere near as annoying as Liverpool or Manchester. So, for the sake of me, if nobody else, Tottenham need to pull their finger out. I don't think they considered that.
No, probably not. But for me and you, obviously operating at the same level of football journalism, I want the Midlands teams to do well, Jonathan. That's what I need. It's different for everyone. Everyone's got different needs, haven't they? But without Harry Kane, Tottenham would have got 24 fewer points this season. Surely, I mean, he must be looking at this, Jonathan, and be thinking, there is no way I am staying here. This is just an absolute joke. Yeah,
I mean, they wouldn't have got 24 fewer points, would they? Because they would have played somebody else, and somebody else probably would have scored 28 goals.
It's in the script.
But they probably would have got 10 fewer points, say 12 fewer points. I mean, he's become a specialist in scoring the Tottenham goal in 3-1, 4-1 defeats, which I guess is non-ideal. Yeah, I mean, he's waited at Tottenham as long as anybody could realistically expect him to. If he leaves now to go to Manchester United, seem to be the ones really making noise about signing him. Yeah, you'd have to be a very, very blinkered Spurs fan not to think, you know what, fair enough. We've let him down. It's not him letting us down. And if he wants to win something in his career, rather than his career just sort of dribbling away, what are Tottenham? What are they offering him to make him stay? And it's very hard to see any reasons why he should stay. So I sort of, even a couple of months ago, I was sort of assuming Kane would stay because being a one club man, potentially winning something with Tottenham would mean so much more than winning it with perennial winners. But Spurs just don't offer that. And if he goes to Manchester United had the League Cup this year was the first thing they've won since since the Europa League under Mourinho.
Yeah.
So they hadn't won anything in 6 years. Was that 2017? They won that. So it's not like they're serial winners where he's going there guaranteed medals, but that is still a better prospect, a better chance of winning things than you imagine Tottenham to be next season.
I mean, could be a wild shout from there, but I've been saying on other podcasts that I do as well. I think Kane will stay at Spurs next season, and then I think he'll go to Newcastle on a free.
Well, I mean, Newcastle haven't won a trophy since 1969, so which crucially is 4 years before Sunderland last won a trophy. So again, they're no guarantee of silverware, but yeah, they're more likely to win something in the next couple of years than Spurs are, clearly.
It's not even. I mean, obviously he will want to win something because that's going to be levelled at him for the rest of his life if he doesn't win anything in his career. But you at least want to be at a club that feels like they're progressing in the right direction, like moving forward. Spurs are just going backwards. Anything Spurs can offer him at the moment is the captaincy if Lloris leaves next season. That's literally all they've got, and probably a shed load of money. But
brilliant! So he gets to do press conferences after he lost disappointingly.
Yeah,
I know he tends to sort of talk anyway. He sort of obviously feels a responsibility, but now he's actually mandated to do it with a bit of cloth around his arm. I'm not sure how big a deal that is.
He's got to go, Harry Kane. I'm sorry, Ben, to upset you, but he absolutely has to for the sake of his own career. Why would you stay? And on the topic,
agree. Don't worry.
Agree. That's good. On the topic of English strikers, Brentford have got to cope without Ivan Toney until January. You saw Brentford firsthand at the weekend. Great team. Had a great season. Annoyingly for me, from a little bit out of nowhere, can still actually qualify for Europe and finish 7th. But they'll miss Toney, but you'd imagine they'll purchase someone in January. And they've got Schade, who they've bought in as well. And to be honest, I think Visser and Mbeumo have grown as Premier League players in the time Brentford have been in the Premier League.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Mbeumo, he sort of under the radar with Toney there. And I mean, I think he's got 9 league goals this season. 5 of those are coming in the 4 games that Toney didn't feature in. So they do have the quality in attack to cover his loss. It's just Mbeumo doesn't offer the same as Toney. Visser probably isn't the same level as Toney. Still a good striker, but not the same level as Toney. It's just if they do make Europe and they go in the long run, they need that strength and depth, and they will miss Toney until January. That goes without saying. He's been absolutely unbelievable for Brentford this season. But they do have the decent backups in Visser and in Mbeumo for now. If they don't get European football, we feel like they could muddle through until January when Toney's back again. But yeah, I mean, credit to Mbeumo where it's due. He's flourished without Toney being there, when previously he was kind of the sidekick in that striking duo.
He's a good player in Mbeumo. I think he always causes team problems cutting in from that right hand side onto his left foot. Jonathan, then Aston Villa in 7th at the moment. So at the moment, Villa will get European football for the first time in over a decade, which I'd be absolutely delighted with. Do you think they'll do it? Do you think they'll get over the line? And just how good has Unai Emery done there?
Yeah, I think. I mean, they're in the position, aren't they? So yeah, they are favourites. They should do so. I mean, Emery's done a remarkable job. I never thought Gerrard was a good appointment, but still, and Villa have sort of slightly under the radar spent quite a lot of money over the last couple of seasons. I think their position under Gerrard was not a false position, because that is how badly they were playing, but it was a false position relative to how good the squad was. And Emery's come and unleashed that. And if anything, now you'd say that their form is slightly a false position the other way, that they're overperforming. But again, it's sort of, I don't think Emery's done anything spectacularly unusual. He's just got a clear plan and he's enacted it, and he's got players pulling together, and everybody knows what they're doing. He's simplified things, and his record at clubs who finish who are not necessarily in a title race but are one tier down, his record is exceptional in Spain. So he's clearly very, very good at that. I think maybe he was over-criticised at Arsenal, that people expected a bigger post-Wenger bounce. But then you look at how patchy Arteta, certainly his start was, and you sort of realise, I think, that Emery was in a difficult position there, and the job he did, it wasn't a great job, but it certainly wasn't a terrible job either. So yeah, I think he's obviously done a really good job, and I guess next season, I suppose 7th is still the target because there are 7 richer clubs, but one of them's Tottenham. So you think, well, that Villa can certainly finish above Tottenham. You've got Brighton, obviously, might lose a couple of players, but they might bring a couple in. They'll be battling that. Chelsea surely will be better next season. So to get breaking into the top 6, I think is really, really difficult. But 7th feels about the level, and that's why he's taken the team from a very unpromising start.
Yeah, I think just to win a trophy as well is what the Villa fans want. Haven't won anything since 1996, and if Villa do get into Europe, they've got the right manager to try and win a European trophy. Really, the Villa fans Villa fans will go wild for the Conference League.
It's a very odd thing, isn't it? I mean, I'm sort of broadly pro it because I think it's a good way of distributing revenue to smaller leagues. It's a good way of getting them European football, getting them exposure, getting them 6 big-ish games a season as a minimum. It offers that possibility. You finish 7th in the Premier League, and that means that there's a chance of European football for the likes of Villa, West Ham, Leicester, who even I don't know, even sort of Burnley say it's not impossible. They could the momentum of promotion could carry them. Some pretty odd teams have finished 7th before, and if that gets you into Europe, that's something worth aiming for.
Burnley have been in Europe.
Well, they have, but once you're, I mean, that was before there's a big 6, though, wasn't it? It's a slightly different situation, but it offers that possibility. But once you're there, and I was talking to a West Ham fan the other day, and he was saying he's a bit divided on what the Conference League means. He's sort of, on the one hand, he's really excited during the games, and he's delighted they got to the final. But on the other hand, he's sort of thinking, hang on, we've got a 60,000 capacity stadium. We're beating Alkmaar. He's got, I don't know what capacity their stadium is, 15, 20,000, something like that. Of course we should be beating these teams. And so there is a sense of sort of the Premier League clubs that you're just bullying these smaller teams. And that actually there isn't quite the excitement, there isn't quite the glamour you should get from European competition because the Premier League is so much wealthier. And that's a problem, not of the competition, but a problem of the way that revenues are distributed.
Yeah, it's good teams like Villa and Brighton qualifying for Europe, though. If Villa do, of course, qualify for Europe, and Brentford if they were to qualify for Europe, because they'll take it seriously, and they've got fans that will embrace it because they haven't been in Europe either ever or for a long time. So I think it's a positive thing. And you look at West Ham; they had a great run last year in the Europa League. They're in the Conference League this year, and the fans have embraced it and they've really enjoyed it. And if they win that trophy, whenever that game's probably not being played for another 6 weeks. If they win that trophy, it'd be the best day of their lives.
It's a week on Wednesday, that final.
Yeah. Oh, well, I can't wait.
But the thing I don't understand what the UEFA have done there, that it's in Prague in a 20,000 capacity stadium, so there's only 5,000 tickets per team, which just doesn't make any sense to me. I know you don't want empty seats, and I know that they want to take these finals to venues that wouldn't get the bigger finals, but surely you set 35,000, 40,000 minimum, and there's plenty of cities in Europe that have a stadium that big that you could host it in. And it was Tirana last year, wasn't it? So okay, it's nice for Tirana to get it. It's nice for Prague to have it. Although Prague must have a stadium bigger than 20,000, surely. But I still think there's other places you could go that would allow more fans to go, which surely is part of the point of it. If you want fans to embrace it, you've got to give them a chance to get there. And also, I don't really understand why there's 10,000, why half a stadium is going to non-fans. Surely this competition, of all the competitions, is the one where you say, this is the fans competition. It's not about sponsors. It's not about the corporate stuff, which they need to generate revenue for the Champions League and maybe Europa League. Surely this is one where it can be more of a fans event rather than, 5,000 West Ham fans is it's nothing compared to their fan base.
Yes, I'm already worried that if Villa do qualify for Europe and get to the final next season, I'm going to struggle to get.
Well, they haven't announced where the final is, have they? I think they announced that later this month.
Yeah, hopefully it's a bigger ground than 20,000 anyway. Otherwise,
Sunderland could host it. Sunderland's got 48,000. We'd happily host it. I say that. I haven't talked to anybody at the club, but I'm assuming we would. I, as a man of Sunderland, would be happy for us to host it.
I don't know whether we do Championship grounds for for European Cup finals. I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure how it works.
Championship team is not a championship ground.
That's true. That's definitely true. There's definitely possibly some League One, League Two grounds in the Premier League at the moment, and potentially one to come as well. Let's talk a little bit about Coventry v Luton. One of those, of course, will be in the Premier League next season. Ben, let's actually start with the combined 11 of these two teams. It's just fascinating. I mean, Mark Robbins at Coventry, I know a bit more about them, has done an unbelievable job. But Rob Edwards walking into Luton as well. To have them in the final. If Luton to get into the Premier League, that's one of the best achievements any club's ever had, in my opinion.
Yeah, it'd be a remarkable achievement if they do defeat Coventry on this weekend. I think it's Saturday, isn't it? So the combined 11, we've got 4-3-1-2. Wilson in goal, Drama, McNally, Lockyer, Doherty, in defence. Hamer, Villa favourite, Marvellous Nakamba, and Sheaf make up midfield. Clark behind Guy Carrez and Morris.
Jonathan, in goal for the team, how do you feel about that?
I mean, look, I haven't played for some time, but hang on, it's on. When am I playing this game?
Saturday. Well, the combined 11 are never playing, but Wilson was in goal in that 11 anyway.
Playing cricket. Sorry, I'm gonna have to pull out.
I've
already put my name down for that. So yeah, I'm better at cricket than I ever was at football. So. Yeah,
Sunderland, cricket, football in that order. That'd be the banner.
I haven't seen enough of either side to sort of put together a counter 11. What I will say is that Gyökeres is really, really good. He's physically very powerful, holds the ball up well, but he's got a bit more than that as well. And Lockyer, I think at Luton is the player who's really stood out, really commanding centre back.
Was it Sunderland for a bit, Lockyer? Was it Sunderland? Have I completely imagined? I've gotten confused with someone else.
I mean, Sunderland have had 1 million players in the last 10 years. It is possible, but I don't remember him.
Okay.
But he scored in the second leg of the playoff semi. He's just a proper old school centre back, but not maybe a bit better on the ball than that implies. So they're both quite physical, both quite direct teams. The rise of both of them, the fact that 5 years ago they're coming out of League One. It's an incredible achievement for either of them. They're not teams you relish playing as a club in the Championship. You know that it's a physical battle. Whether that translates to the Premier League, I'm not sure. I mean, whichever of them goes up will be favoured to go down, clearly. And I think probably both of them have to sort of go up with the mindset of, if we stay up, it's a bonus. Let's go up, let's not do anything daft, and let's take the money to consolidate so we can have a better crack at it in 3 or 4 years' time.
A bit like what Bournemouth did, because they'd have been the favourites to go down when they came up, but they sat it relatively comfortably in there.
Yeah, but I think the style of football makes a difference there, because I think if you play more progressive, more possession-based football, I think that translates to the Premier League a bit better than this pretty sort of direct style that both have. I don't think Premier League defences can be physically rattled in the way that both Coventry and Luton have physically rattled Championship defences. And the issue you have then is do you try to change your style to adapt to the Premier League? And I'm not sure that necessarily. I mean, Luton aren't just a direct team at all. I don't want to make it sound like they're two long ball teams, but they are clearly physically very imposing sides. Yeah, Luton got 10 points more than Coventry over the season. From what I saw, I'd say they were the more impressive team. They do have the issue, if they go up, they're going to have to spend 10 million on the ground to make that ready when they're already building a new stadium. So that feels a bit like wasted money. But on the other hand, they'll get way more than that from TV revenues.
I mean, that's blown my mind that they've got to do that. I didn't know that, and it's made me completely forget what I was going to say.
Let's not forget Nathan Jones' part in all this.
That was what I was going to say. I was going to say it's almost a shame that we got the brief cameo of Nathan Jones in the Premier League for Southampton, and he obviously ended up leaving. But some brilliant sound bites that will stay with Premier League fans forever. It's almost a shame that he isn't the one that's got Luton in this position, and he's not the one to get them up, because we'd probably have a whole season of Nathan Jones then in the Premier League.
He set the foundation, to be fair. So
no, he did a wonderful job at Luton, but then he went into Southampton and completely lost the plot.
And his camp bed is still in the manager's office. Rob Edwards was saying before the semi-final that he's got to have to ring him up in the summer and ask him to come and pick up his camp bed.
Nathan Jones,
That's brilliant.
Still baffling that Man City could have won the quadruple were it
I like
not for Nathan Jones.
I like to think that Nathan Jones somewhere just sleeps on the floor because he doesn't have his camp bed and he can't collect it until the summer.
Yeah, he feels to me
Well,
like
I mean,
the
I'm
one
sure
going
you can
by
collect it
new
any
one.
time, but
Yeah,
He wouldn't go and buy a new one though, would he? When he knows he's got a perfectly good one waiting for him at Luton still, he's not going to go and purchase a new camp bed. Absolutely.
you know the story about the table tennis table as well, do you?
No, please enlighten me.
So he felt that Luton players were over focused on their table tennis competitions. So rather than doing what a less dynamic man might do and just saying to them, like, lads, maybe just tone down the table tennis, he stormed into the players' room, grabbed the table tennis table, dragged it out into the car park, smashed it up, and set it on fire.
Which club was this at?
But Luton, this is the
Luton
start
have
of
always-
Luton's.
Luton have always done well as well. That was a bizarre thing to do. Maybe that was the start of it.
This is the start of their great rise, a sacrifice of the table tennis table, a burnt offering to the gods.
Jonathan, can you, for your next book, can you just write one on Nathan Jones, please, and just tell all these stories? I need to know more. I need to know more about him.
it could be a true or false book. So is this story about Nathan Jones true or false? That doesn't sound real, but it's perfect.
I mean, someone going in a press conference and saying they were the fittest man in the world doesn't sound real, but I know it might be.
To be fair, when you see that in context, he's clearly not saying that. Well, he's just slightly exaggerating the fact that very much exaggerating the fact that what he was saying was, I wasn't a great player, so I made myself the fittest man in the world. You know what he means. He means he's really worked as fit. He didn't sort of come out and go, I am the fittest man in the world. I will take on the world marathon record holder, the winner of Superstars. I don't know. Who is it? I don't know who the fittest man in the world is.
Secretly thinks that, though. You definitely know he secretly thinks
backs himself. He definitely backs himself, which is nothing. There's nothing wrong with some of those press conference sound bites. They were getting more and more ridiculous by the week. And there was, we've turned into the Nathan Jones podcast. There's one game where I think that's fun. I think he switched system about 17 times during one Southampton game. He just come back of his mind. What he wanted to do, he'll regret leaving Luton. Absolutely, 100%. I'm going to ask you both a question then. Who is going up, Coventry or Luton, Ben?
It's such a tight one to call because I think Coventry, I think Luton. I keep sort of switching between the two. I think Coventry might just edge it, but I think it'll go the full 120 minutes. I think it's going to extra time.
I can see penalty shootout. Jonathan?
Luton.
I
just think they're the better side. By 10 points over the season is quite a lot. I know it doesn't always play out, but having seen them both against Sunderland, I would say Luton were the better side.
There was a phase, I don't know whether it's still a thing, where the team that finished third just never used to go up. It just never used to happen. Do you remember that? Do you remember that phase? And people used to complain about it. Oh, it's not fair because the team that finishes third doesn't get any kind of reward for it. But everyone knows the rules before the season starts.
Yeah. It's made it better. It's definitely made it better. But...
Yeah, I don't know who's going to go up. Like Jonathan said, I have not seen enough of either team really to know. But I'll back Coventry because I'd like to see another Midlands team in the Premier League. That would be my preference. So if that's what I want to happen, well done, Luton. You're in the Premier League next season. That does us for the Edge of the Box podcast this week. No, just a minute because a few of the games are dead rubber and we've kind of gone through the permutations earlier on in the show. So thank you very much for watching. We'll be back next week with an FA Cup preview, so look out for that. Subscribe to the channel with your post notifications on and give the video a like and a comment if you have enjoyed it. Have a good rest of the week. Enjoy all the football at the weekend and stay safe.